Hello everyone, Davina is here again, and for today's opportunity, I would like to review 10th article. If the previous video I have reviewed about textbook, and for today's challenge, I would like to review 10th article. I think it seems quite a lot, but the article that I'm going to review is related with EFL, that is English as a foreign language. That's definitely us as Indonesian learner use English as our foreign language. So it's really suitable for us. And the most audience for the article that I'm going to talk about in this presentation is mostly for teacher who are going to use this strategy to teach their students to improve their listening skills. But regardless, for the teachers, students like us, like people who are going to improve to develop their listening skills, also can access this article. For the first article, I'm going to tell for you guys that I have written the list of the article with the authors and the link on my description below. So if you want to access the article and if you wanted to learn about the article that I'm going to review today, you can click the link and they're going to provide you for the article. Okay, let's get to know about the first article. Okay, for the first article, it's about the impact of input format on written performance in a listening interwriting assessment by Caroline Westbrook. All right, the aims. The aims of the authors is to investigate how test-taker performance differs on integrated EAP listening interwriting task when lecture input is presented as audio only in one half and video in the other half of the input. And for the research question that the author are going to explore for the research is for the first is how do input order and format audio versus video, those are the input, affect written performance on an integrated listening interwriting EAP task. For the second question is with regard to the taste taker perception of their performance, what reason do the taste taker give for why they felt they perform better when presented with one input format rather than the other input? And for the last one question is what reason do the taste taker give for why they felt they performed worse when presented with one input format rather than the other? And the finding of this research is revealed that there is issues of a drop-off in performance when video is used. And there seems to be more of a preference for video-based input than audio only input. After we have known about the first article that the impact of written performance on a listening into writing assessment, for the next article, for the second article is about the impact of collaborative listening to podcasts on high school learners, listening comprehension, and vocabulary learning. In the previous video, we have learned about the impact of input format in writing and listening comprehension. For this article, we are going to learn about the podcast that develop students' listening skills. Okay, the intention of this article is to show that podcasts can provide learners enough input, which is admittedly the very primary prerequisite for L2 development. Why the author believe that podcasts can develop students' listening skills? Because the rapid development and innovation witnesses in technology and the advance of smartphones, in particular, have generated the necessary motivation and condition for ubiquitous learning. The author believes that in this modern era, a lot of sophisticated technology that a learner can access the knowledge of listening skills and regardless for their entertainment using their smartphone or their device, technology also can use for improving their listening skills. The conclusion of this article is demonstrated that podcasts led the significant gains on the dependent variables. Peer-peer interaction failed to improve learners' listening skills, but appeared to be the source of some significant change in their vocabulary learning. So, the author of the second article is they're going to explore about the podcast and peer-peer interaction, but the result show that podcasts lead to the significance for the students' listening skills, but for the peer-peer interaction failed to the listening skills, but peer-peer interaction influence for students' vocabulary learning. For the next article is about using speech comprehension to qualify communication in classroom, influence of listening condition, task complexity, and students' age and linguistic abilities. What is the objective? The objective of this research is to explore the use of a speech comprehensive task combined with an assessment of listening effort as an alternative more thorough way to qualify classroom acoustic and to investigate the impact of task difficulty, listening condition, and individual characteristic on speech communication. The article is about explaining listening comprehension among L2 of English, the contribution of general language proficiency, vocabulary knowledge, and metacognitive awareness. Right, for the purpose of this article is exploring the impact of individual differences in language knowledge and metacognitive awareness of strategies used in the listening process while keeping task characteristic, interlocutor characteristic, and task characteristic constants. And the result of this article is individual differences in general language competency, vocabulary knowledge, and metacognitive awareness were investigated in order to explain learners' listening comprehension. These three learners' characteristics were found to explain 30% of the variance in L2 learners' listening comprehension, and the factor with the greatest explanatory power were found to be general language competency and L2 vocabulary knowledge, that is 30% and 30% respectively, followed by a person. It means that personal language knowledge is give the most impact for their listening skills. For the next article is dialect interaction and dynamic system theory and listening comprehension. That is a case study of metacognitive intervention. The purpose of this research is to investigate how the EFL learner listening comprehension evolves as a result of interacting with metacognitive strategies because of the development trajectories related to an EFL learner's metacognitive strategy use as well as listening comprehension from a dynamic system theory perspective. The findings of this research is metacognitive strategies can provide learners with appropriate and effective methods to orient themselves to the listening task, access their background knowledge, and compare their interpretation of the input with the actual input, and thereby increasing their involvement and competence in processing the upcoming information. It means that the cognitive can influence the learner for their listening task and for the vocabulary, and also for compare their interpretation of the input with the actual input. For the next article is about evaluating cognitive, metacognitive, and social listening comprehension teaching strategy in Kuwaiti classroom. The objective of this article is to evaluate the listening comprehension strategies covered by Kuwaiti 9th grade target English textbook with adherence to the teaching practice of EFL teachers. The author would like to evaluate for the EFL teacher that textbook can influence their listening comprehension. And why? Because learning comprehension strategies hold a vital position in the second language attainment research. And the result of this article is cognitive strategies, metacognitive, and social or affective strategy are essential to establish appropriate practice from the textbook. Opportunities are endowed by content analysis for the EFL teacher to assist students employing cognitive, metacognitive, social, affective strategies significantly. For the next article is the use of songs, lyrics in teaching listening. So the focus of this article is to research students' reaction to the use of songs, lyrics in teaching listening skills and to learn about the problems that the instructor faces when utilizing songs, lyric in teaching listening. And the finding of this research is that this study demonstrated the effectiveness of using songs lyrics to teach listening. It can be evidence that the pupils love their listening assignment. This article show because the students in this current era are really in love with music. So this article show that a teacher can use songs lyric to teach their students to develop students' listening skills. For the next article is measuring latent listening strategy, that is development and validation of the EFL listening strategy inventory. The aims of this article is to build a foundation for the investigation of the traits variable by constructing a prototype listening strategy using the inventory with demonstrable psychometric qualities, meaning that item responses reflect variance in the learner's implicit constructs of strategy use. The research of this article show that bottom-up strategies do not exert direct effects on listening comprehension, but must be mediated by top-down strategy. Results are discussed in light of existing strategy effect studies. Future research to test the generalizability of the inventory across cultural contexts and to gauge its feasibility in pedagogical application is suggested. It means the results of article show that bottom-up strategy do not exert direct effects on listening comprehension. Bottom-up means that the strategy for learner to use the smallest units first, like from the smallest units like grammar function, like the students are directed to know like from the word, what is the word, and the vocabulary, like morphology, morphemes, and the phrases, and after that the sentence. And after knowing from the smallest units, the students are directed to learn to know about the general meanings of what they are going to learn about. And but for this research is bottom up must be mediated, and in top-down strategy means that the learners learn from the general means first, and after that the students directed to learn from the smallest unit, like from the grammar function. That's the result for this article. For the next article is second language listening instruction. That is comparing a strategy-based approach with an interactive strategies or bottom-up skills approach. The intent of this article is to compare a strategy approach to second language listening instruction with an interactive approach, one combining a roughly equal balance of strategy and bottom-up skills. And the research and the conclusion of this research is that listening comprehension will develop more in the strategy course than an interactive course. The strategy group would outperform the interactive group in strategy ability and learn characteristic. And the result also supported that the interactive group would outperform the strategy group in developing their bottom-up skills. For the last one article is about the listening should be done communicatively. That is, do task-supported language teaching and post-task self-reflection facilitate the development of L2 listening proficiency. For the objective of this article is to post-task self-reflection techniques that contains guiding question for learners to monitor their listening process, reflects on their listening strengths and weaknesses, and set up subsequent action plans. The research of this article revealed the positive influence on the L2 listening and proficiency development and the positive viewpoints of the stakeholders, and self-reflection of error was not effective in enhancing listening proficiency. And the finding contributes to teaching and learning L2 listening with suggestions revolving around issues related to task designs, implementation, and teaching procedures. So guys, those are the 10 articles that I have been reviewing for my presentation right now. As I said earlier, if you are curious to learn one of the article about or you are interested to study all of them, you can click the link on my description below and you will find it. And the last thing I want to say that thank you so much for all of you guys who have been watching my video until the end. I'm really happy for you guys and see you for another chance.